People tell me all the time, don't call Donald Trump a fascist. Don't call Fox News fascist. It's not fascism. You're overreacting. But after a couple re-education commissions and concentration camps later, I think people are changing their tones. Now Trump got COVID-19, and he's covering up his pain with a propaganda campaign because he cannot afford to look weak. He's leaving Walter Reed Medical Center about 3 weeks too early, and if you could look at this video really quick, he can barely breathe. I mean, this is a meme I made. This is Donald Trump. This is what he does when cameras are off. This is when cameras are on. This is a video when he first got back to the White House. He can barely breathe. Look at this guy's face. Look at this guy's face. He's like, he cannot breathe. And by the way, he's not out of the mud yet. Herman Cain attended a Trump rally, 624. A month later, seems pretty good. He still died because COVID's like a roller coaster. And imagine, this is for people who get world, top tier healthcare. Healthcare, like medical centers that they have access to, they could check in with precautionary symptoms. Like poor people, all the people that are skewing the death toll to be terrible, they don't get this healthcare. Donald Trump is getting the best in the world, and he can still barely breathe. So let's see what Tucker Carlson has to say about this. He's going to bring in social Darwinism, ableism. It's really freaky stuff. This is fascism, folks. This is literally the epitome of what it means, and it's coming on full force.
Well, you don't need to be a Trump partisan to feel good about the president's recovery. You just need to be a decent person. The moment you find yourself...
This is the virtue signaling that you have to start off gaslighting with.
...rooting for another man's illness or death is the moment you need to stop immediately in your tracks, pause, and take stock of your soul. You're the one who's sick and badly in need of help.
These are the people who, whenever they see a black person got killed, they're like, well, I mean, there was something wrong with, he jaywalked. He deserved it. These are the people that love it when black people die, and they get to exploit it.
You're rotting from within. But the media are not stopping. They're not even pausing. They're too angry. Donald Trump is alive. They were hoping that wouldn't happen. Worse, Trump walked out of the hospital under his own steam after just 3 days. 74 years old, and the virus didn't really slow him down. In fact, he looks fine.
Yep, didn't slow him down, as he can barely breathe on the strongest possible medication he can be on, by the way. He's on every steroid, every experimental treatment you can get in the world. The best healthcare in the world. And he is still struggling. 74 years old, supremely overweight.
These are dangerous facts. If you're allowed to think about them too much, you might draw the wrong conclusions. You might conclude the coronavirus isn't quite as scary as they're telling you it is. You might regret giving up your constitutional rights in a panic last spring, or letting them destroy the American economy in response.
You might regret caring about 220,000 people dying because the economy went down for a couple days. Even though everyone kept on losing jobs, the economy the stock market shot right back up because the stock market isn't the actual economy. And no one gave up any rights. We literally do whatever we want. We could do whatever we want in America. The only thing they ask of us is to wear a mask to keep other people safe. It's not that big of a deal, you drama queen.
You might find yourself enraged that they're keeping your kids from getting an education and have for 6 months. And above all, you might stop believing the news media. Why are we watching this crap? It's not news. It's propaganda.
Yep, Fox News is going to tell us what real news is. Don't get me wrong, I hate CNN, I hate MSNBC, but whenever conservative hosts do this shit, I hate it. Because whether you talk about Tim Pool, Steven Crowder, Tucker Carlson, Tucker Carlson is the highest rated media personality, literally, of all time. Fox News is the highest rated media channel of all time, literally. When they talk about, the right doesn't have a voice, the media is lying to you, complete gaslighting. They are the ones lying to us, and they have the influence. It's absolutely crazy. Look at YouTube. Look at the numbers of someone like Tim Pool and Steven Crowder versus the representation on the left with Kyle Kalinske. The numbers are astoundingly skewed towards the right.
They're lying to us. We just caught them again. All weekend they told us Donald Trump was going to die. He had a pre-existing condition called obesity. Trump wasn't merely overweight. He was, quote, clinically obese.
Yeah, records actually came out. They leaked from the hospital, so he couldn't really lie about it. He's not 6'2" and 240 pounds. He's more like 5'11" and 320 pounds, by the way.
Grotesquely overweight.
He
Sideshow fat.
Yep.
His silhouette blocks the sun.
It does.
Thanks to decades of cheeseburgers and Three Musketeers bars, Donald Trump would never make it home alive.
I mean, the odds are pretty bad.
There are, of course, these concerns.
Still.
He has these comorbidities. He's 74 years old. He's clinically obese.
He has all of the risk factors that are suggestive of severe morbidity and mortality.
That's a
President
fact.
Trump is a man in his 70s who was obese. He also had a trip to Walter Reed. We don't know what that was about.
Clinical obesity and high cholesterol put him in a high-risk category for a more severe response and reaction to the disease.
The president is 74 years old, which makes him 5 times more likely to be hospitalized. He obviously is 90 times more likely.
This is literally data. These are facts that Tucker Carlson is going to tell his viewers is not real.
To die than a young person.
The President of the United States is in the hospital, diagnosed with a potentially deadly virus for which there is no cure.
Clinical obesity.
Okay, that last one was a little crazy.
Clinical obesity, clinical obesity. That is the single worst insult your average news anchor can imagine. And that's exactly how they meant it, by the way, as an insult. As a medical matter, being overweight is, in fact, a significant risk factor for dying from the coronavirus. That is a problem. There are a lot of overweight people in America. Since they made us all quit smoking, it's become a pretty fat country.
Oh, yeah?
But notice how none of the TV health experts ever mention that, except in the specific case of Donald Trump.
But if you're talking about a specific case, of course you bring up what that individual is dealing with. They're not going to show COVID death tolls and show one column with people who died just from COVID, another column with people who died with pre-existing conditions and COVID, and then they have a third column that just says obesity. Obesity is known as a pre-existing condition. They're not going to have a special obesity segment on CNN every night talking about all the fat people that died from corona because of complications related to being overweight. This is pure, it's a garbage thought.
If you really cared, if you really wanted to save the population from dying of COVID, you would encourage people to slim down. You would do everything you could, for example, to keep the gyms open. But our leadership class has done the opposite of that. They've literally arrested gym owners for trying to help Americans lose weight.
Oh, yeah. 100% what happened. It's not like the gym owners need to be open to let their businesses survive because our government will not protect our small businesses, will not protect our workers. Guess what? France spent like half of what America did. Their unemployment, like in the COVID response, their unemployment percentage went up 1.5. Our unemployment percentage, we spent more money than them per capita. Our unemployment went up 10.5. You could Google the numbers. We did a bad job. People didn't care about opening their gyms so they could get people exercise. They wanted to keep their businesses alive, but our screwed up government doesn't fix anything. Remember, progressives, he's not your friend. When he says something slightly populist, don't trust him.
So that's how sincere they are about saving our lives. Donald Trump's life, they told us, was beyond saving. They made that very clear. According to one anchor at CNN, the president was, quote, 90 times more likely to die than a young
fact.
person. 90 times. Well, that sounds very scary, but only if you're not familiar with the numbers. According to the CDC, 99.98% of coronavirus patients under the age of 49 survive. Even old people get over the virus, almost all of them. According to the CDC, the survival rate for people over 70 years old is 94.6%.
That's not high.
All people over.
You're saying 5% of old people that get it die? So for every 1 million old people that get it, 50,000 are going to die? Are you kidding me? And people, like I said, people in this position that can get this amazing healthcare, they still get it and die? And you're saying this isn't a big deal? That's the thing about all these numbers. That's the thing about all these people on like Facebook that I see. Oh, it's only a 3% chance I'll die with my pre-existing conditions. 3% is a large number. You're in a room, like saying you're in a room with 100 people and 3 drop dead. Are you taking those chances so you could look like you have you're a big masculine tough guy for not wearing a mask? Is that the chance you really want to take? And are we that sociopathic to think that 5% of people dying from something isn't bad? Like, holy crap, if you want to really dumb this down and look at the entire senior population, how many old people are there in the United States? There were more than 54 million. There's 55 million old people. If 5% of them die, holy crap. That's like 2.5 million people. Holy crap.
7, including people who are 103. Together, it's 95%. Ordinary shingles may be more deadly. It turns out, quote, 90 times more likely to die isn't actually a death sentence.
No shit. We have facts for this stuff. You could look at numbers, but they don't want you thinking. One of the internal contradictions that fascism has to keep alive is to keep people not thinking. Don't look at facts. Think irrationally. Make everything about social Darwinism, which he's going to say Donald Trump is so strong. He's just that great of a guy. He was able to overcome it because he's not scared like Joe Biden is hiding in his bunker.
But things got so overheated on CNN on Friday that even the channel's in-house doctor felt obliged to add some perspective to the fear-mongering.
Obviously, given the president's age and his pre-existing illnesses, he's going to be at increased risk from this disease. But I want to preface by saying, still, the odds are very much in his favor. I don't want to unsettle people too much with this. You know, greater than 90%, 95% chance that he will get through this still.
The odds are...
That didn't contradict anything.
Very much in his favor. Well, that's an understatement. The median age of death for coronavirus in this country is 78 years old. As it happens, 78 is also the life expectancy for all people in this country.
Old people don't matter.
In other words, it's dangerous to be an old person who has the coronavirus. It's also dangerous to be an old person, period.
People die in car crashes all the time.
At some point, we're all going to die. Dying is the central fact
there
of
it is.
life. Unfortunately, a secular society has no answer for that, no explanation, and no comfort to give us in the face of it. So no wonder we're so terrified.
Imagine if a terrorist attack happened, like there was a shooting somewhere, some type of like mass shooting. Say 5 people die in that terrorist attack. If you say after that, like people die all the time, it's a fact of life. Sorry. If you say that, are you kidding me? The backlash you would get in this country, 220,000 people. I mean, no one would ever say that, obviously, because these are both ridiculous things. 220,000 people died from a virus, from a pandemic, and they're saying it doesn't matter because everyone dies. It is absolutely insane thinking. It's like there's an oath that you must die for the economy. You must die for the political, will of Donald Trump. It's scary. It's scary stuff when people are thinking like this. And this thinking will get people killed.
What if we were less afraid? What if the news media weren't frothy in a partisan frenzy a month before?
If the media didn't freak us out before this happened, like 400 to 500,000 people would have been dead by now instead of 220,000. All the early predictions that said there would be like 5 million to 10 million people dead in the US or whatever, all those predictions were predicated upon and these are predictions everyone said, they said the predictions were wrong, by the way. All these predictions were if we did nothing as a society to combat the virus. Thank God they scared people more than they should have been scared.
An election. What if we could think clearly? What kind of conversation would we be having then? We might have some very tough questions for our public health authorities. Donald Trump lives in one of the safest, most controlled environments on planet Earth. If you're looking to stay free from disease, you would try to move to the White House.
Not if you ignore every safety guideline and hold mass events with a bunch of people who also don't, comply with safety guidelines and don't care if they get coronavirus. You hold these events without masking and where you're basically making out with everyone you talk to. You give them a big hug. You're like, how are you doing? Breathing your freaking mouth air into each other's bodies, letting those fluid particles transmit.
Everyone around the president is tested regularly. There are doctors everywhere.
Not true.
Donald Trump got the virus anyway. So they're telling us that Trump got infected because he ignored coronavirus protocol.
He did, yeah,
That's
exactly.
A lie.
It's not a lie.
Lots of people follow the rules and get the virus anyway. It may have happened to you. You probably know someone it happened to. Our rules don't work very well. That's the real lesson here. Our rules don't work.
Yeah, that's the real lesson. Our rules don't work well, so don't follow them. I once heard of a guy in a car crash. He died with his seatbelt on. I don't know why we wear seatbelts. Why would we give up the right for us to not wear seatbelts? They don't work all the time. Might as well just let more people die. If you're gonna die, you're gonna die. It's just how the world works. This isn't that disconnected, by the way, from the idea that, if you die today, it's God's plan for you. It's God's plan. This is psychotic thinking. This is fundamentalist thinking. This is social Darwinism. This is if you're stronger, you will survive somehow. We know it's all a lie. If you read anything about the uprising of fascism, the beginning of it, leading to right-wing populism and fascism today, you will see exactly where these fake truths lie within.
Very well. So we're destroying our society and we're still getting sick. There has to be a better way to do this.
So he said we're destroying our society. We're destroying our society, and we're still getting sick. So the rules are basically pointless. Gaslighting people who are watching this, and by the way, he gets like 10 million viewers a day. He's the highest rating media person. People are watching this every single day and thinking exactly like him. We have a good 30 to 35% of the country who would be happy right now with a fascist dictatorship. They literally wouldn't care. They cannot think straight. They get this information. They believe whatever they hear. They get told by fake news that the other fake news is the real fake news and you should believe our propaganda. Instead of being sheep to them, instead of being sheep to CNN and MSNBC, they're sheep to Fox News. They're sheep to far-right ideologies. And this is really scary because we know that when there's fascist ideologies, they let that take hold. A liberal democracy lets fascism take hold before they'll ever let a social democracy take hold. Because capitalism can exist and people who are at the top of that system can benefit under fascism. That's why it's so dangerous when people are saying this, because there's not going to be big pushback unless if corporations feel like it's in their interest to push back against this kind of thinking. So I think this election, if corporations choose that fascism is bad for business, then I think Joe Biden will win. This is a little bit of a tangent. But anyway, this is fascism. Just push back against these ideas. Make sure we look at the facts. I had a guy on Twitter, Sean Lowry. I was on his podcast before. He said to me when I said we should be protecting our most vulnerable people, he's like, oh, wait, you think they're not strong enough to protect themselves? You think they're not strong enough? Literal social Darwinism. That's not what it is. They literally have pre-existing conditions. They have cancer. 150 million people in the U.S. have some type of pre-existing condition. If they get COVID, there's a high chance they'll die. If they don't die, they're going to get really high hospital bills. If they get high hospital bills, we don't have universal health care in the U.S., they're going to be in debt the rest of their lives. If they are in debt the rest of their lives and have high hospital bills and still survive, they're going to have a pre-existing condition now, so it's even harder for them to get insurance in the future. They might have future complications which won't be covered by insurance, by the crappy insurance, if they can afford insurance in America, but they'll be in debt so they can't afford insurance. Do you see where this is going? It's not just about dying. It's about surviving and not being able to live after. It's about a society being so cold and callous that 220,000 people dying doesn't change anything for them, except it's annoying that they have to wear a mask, and it's annoying that the stock market goes down. That's not where we can let our society go in the future if we ever hope to see some type of good world for our children to live in, for us to live in, for humanity to survive in.